This is Ambazonia Calling. News, analysis, commentary, opinion, editorials. Ambazonia Calling is a co-production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. Welcome. My name is Ntumfoyn Herbert, and I bring revolutionary greetings from our studios in Washington, D.C. to all of you, friends of Ambazonia and fellow Ambazonians on Ground Zero and across the globe.
A coalition of over 30 African civil society organizations have joined forces with 6 global human rights groups in slamming the Biya regime for rights violations. I am Innocent Chia.
The military are on the cover. They are hiding in one house in Tanko.
We cannot go back to the same curriculum after 3 years.
And we have asked and asked and asked and asked and asked, reform the Security Council.
A liberator and a despot. Former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe has died. He was 95 years old.
That is what La Republic is facing. For more than 58 years, they put the people of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia under fear. And they thought that it was love. No, there is no love in that country.
To me, some man will use for a name for the working money on top.
Idiot, Mother Barak, Jana big number. It's caught. So it's caught this. 3 scenes about it all over so. Jana big number beginning that. Where am? Where prepared? They wait for anything make am.
Now me where the commissioner General Mufta for roots.
In the Cameroons, all arguments about law and the rule of law are opened and closed by presidential decrees, meaning that rule in these parts of the world is not of law, but by decree, which equates to dictatorship. This is the monk.
Will this Ambazonia ever be run better and less corrupt than French Cameroon? Christoph Hans Messner for Ambazonia Calling.
This is edition 062 of Ambazonia Calling, coming to you this 8th day of September 2019.
Freedom, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, freedom is coming, oh yes, freedom.
Here is free advice to tyrants and colonialists all around the world. Do not imprison revolutionaries. There's not a prison big enough to hold them in. Do not kill revolutionaries. They do not die. And here, therefore, today, hallelujah, from the grave, is Ambazonia Calling's editorial. It comes to you from a man who is supposed to have died, from Robert Mugabe, the man who may have misruled his people in Zimbabwe, who may have missed opportunities to make himself even greater, but whose sins we will forgive here at Ambazonia Calling, if only to thank him for fighting and putting his own life on the line to make sure that his people won freedom. Robert Mugabe was speaking to the world via the person of Ban Ki-moon, at the time Secretary General of the United Nations. Here is our editorial in honor of Robert Mugabe. He's speaking to all the people of Ambazonia who today fight for freedom and the people of Africa who deserve more dignity than the world cares to give them. Here's Robert Mugabe.
We are supposed to be free and independent, Mr. Ban Ki-moon. Supposed to be free, the 54 countries. We come to the United Nations, it's ceremonial. Every year, September, we are there. We pay lots of money to go there. And to the General Assembly, we make speeches, we go back home, year in, year out. But the bosses in the Security Council say you shall never have the powers that we have as permanent members. And we have asked and asked and asked and asked and asked. Reform the Security Council. I want to tell you, Mr. Ban Ki-moon, you are a good man. You are a good man. But of course, we can't make you a fighter. That's not what your mission was. We will fight a fight for our own identity, for our own integrity and personality as Africans. We are Africans.
What Cameroon has done to us, I want you never to forget. The pain they have brought to bear on this generation, I want you never to forget. Not out of hate, but so that the next generation will remember and make sure they do the things they are supposed to do, never to go through this again.
I will continue to play my part to ask the people of Southern Cameroon to take their revolution into their hands and continue the fight to liberate themselves.
I'm sorry to say, because of France's policies in Africa, in French Africa, the state of La République du Cameroun do not have any pressure on them to find a way to resolve this issue, because they are always thinking that no matter what happens, France will always be there to give them coverage.
Still ahead in this edition, we have The Devil Unmasked with Professor Emmanuel Tata Menta. We have a winner of the Nyamfaka of the Week. And we are not done until you have heard our letter to Joshua. So stay tuned, kick back, relax, and enjoy Ambazonia Calling. I'd like to air one more report in continuation of our tribute to Robert Mugabe before we turn to our news wrap-up for the week. This is a report that aired on the day his death was announced. It has an interview of Robert Mugabe in it that's situated in 1976. This was when the war for independence was still ongoing and negotiations had opened in Geneva. You can listen to Robert Mugabe's strategy as he explains it in that interview: continued resistance, continued self-defense, pursuit of the war until independence comes. Time for us to borrow a leaf from Robert Mugabe.
A liberator and a despot. Former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe has died. He was 95 years old. Back in the 60s and 70s, he was imprisoned for almost 11 years by the minority white government of what was then Rhodesia. When he was finally released, Mr. Mugabe took up arms from neighboring Mozambique, launching a series of attacks against Rhodesia's white landowners. In the midst of that civil war, he and other black nationalist leaders went to Geneva to participate in peace talks with Ian Smith's government. And at the time, Robert Mugabe spoke with Barbara Frum on As It Happens about why he was not optimistic about those talks.
Nothing really has been happening of a positive nature. We have been discussing preliminaries with the British government, and nothing substantial has yet been discussed.
Any sign that Mr. Smith is moderating his proposals on his side?
No, we don't know yet what Mr. Smith is prepared to offer. There have been press statements, of course, but this is no indication of what he really is going to offer. In any case, We are not here to negotiate with Mr. Smith. We are here to negotiate with the British government. It's the British government which is the colonial power, and we would like it to decolonize our territory.
The war in Rhodesia seems to be hotting up. 11 people killed in the last 2 days. Is this on anyone's explicit orders?
Well, the orders have been standing. The war must continue. We are not going to stop the war at all. The reason why we started the war was not to get Geneva talks on, but to get our independence. We haven't got this independence, and the war will continue until the independence has come.
Robert Mugabe speaking with Barbara Frum on As It Happens about the 1976 Geneva Conference, which would fall apart not long after that interview. It would take another 3 years for the Lancaster House Agreement and peace to come. But for Zimbabweans, that peace would be short-lived. In the decades between his ascent to power and his death earlier today, Robert Mugabe became tyrannical, imprisoning opposition leaders, suppressing free expression, torturing dissidents, and presiding over a massive economic crisis.
Robert Mugabe was 2 years ago ousted as the leader of his party, and he passed away in Singapore.
We have got a real estate deal made in heaven. If you are pre-qualified and are interested in a single-family home in the Silver Spring area, contact ambercalling at yahoo.com. Write to ambercalling at yahoo.com. Only serious prospective buyers are welcome. We turn attention now to a week of fast-breaking, bloody news all across Ambazonia. The genocide continues. Colonial forces continue to clamp down on the people of Ambazonia. The mass slaughter continues. Mass incarcerations continue. Here is Innocentia with the first part of our news wrap-up for this week.
Stop the killing in the southern Cameroons.
A coalition of over 30 African civil society organizations have joined forces with 6 global human rights groups in slamming the Biya regime for rights violations.
President Biya has got the full responsibility.
In a statement this week, the coalition decried past and ongoing trials of civilians before military jurisdiction in the Cameroons.
You must release the prisoners of the southern Cameroons unconditionally.
They notably call for the immediate and unconditional release of Sisiko Ayuk Tabe, 9 of his closest collaborators, and other Ambazonians arrested, detained, charged, tried, and sentenced for their role in the independence restoration quest by southern Cameroonians.
Release them unconditionally and start talking with them on a round table.
The president of La République du Cameroun, Paul Biya, and his terrorist forces have declared open seasons for terrorism on the civilian population in Ambazonia, unleashing landmines that are banned by Geneva Conventions. In pictures gone viral on social media, La République du Cameroun genocidal forces are seen digging up holes on dirt roads and burying explosive devices. Whereas the pictures shared are reportedly taken from a stretch of the road to Bansaw in the northern zone, sources say it is not isolated and the general population, road users and drivers must stay away from areas that show fresh grounds, especially around bends. Ambazonia Restoration Forces in Balinyonga in Ambazonia's northern zone have announced a breakthrough in their quest for unity and tighter collaboration in joint self-defense action against the colonial occupiers. The announcement came midweek from the heart of Bali, with commanders issuing communiques in English, Pidgin, and native tongue Mungaka.
Rising, 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 Boys are gonna rise into fall no more.
Cross and die, rise into fall no more.
Cross and die, rising, rising, rising. Cross and die, rising to fall no more.
The unity announced in Bali came amidst wild alerts shared on social media that hundreds of occupation forces in Mufti had taken an old woman hostage in her home in Bali and were plotting to take down restoration forces should they show up to enforce the lockdown.
Send this message across to Bali. Anybody who can get to Bali.
The unveiling of the hideout of the colonial soldiers forced them to flee Bali overnight back to Bamenda.
The military are on the cover. They are hiding in one house in Tanko.
On Daybreak Africa, a breakfast show on the Voice of America, Chris Anu clarified the position of pro-independence movements on a return to school.
We have a security situation where troops from the Republic of Cameroon are going around shooting to kill. We do not want a situation where our children are studying or learning with guns pointing at them. Whenever the international community is able to intervene to bring some tranquility into the country, into Ambazonia, we will open our hands and welcome school resumption.
No one loves putting Ambazonian children through the best of schools and education systems more than Ambazonian parents. Yet, he stressed, the pro-independence movements will maintain their opposition to the use of colonial curriculum, recalling that the crisis in the education sector was one of the key issues at the onset of what has now turned out to be a genocidal campaign by the colonizers.
This crisis is a child of teachers' protest in 2016. They were protesting the kind of curriculum that these same schools are using. We cannot go back to the same curriculum after 3 years.
Gunfire filled the air all across Ambazonia on Monday, 2nd September, supposedly the first day back to school according to the timetable laid out by the colonizers. The storm of gunfire was blamed on Ambazonian restoration forces.
This country was united by permission. It was not one and indivisible. It was united by the will of the people of the Southern Cameroon, not by the will of any other person.
The start of a third year of boycott of schools in Ambazonia reminded the world of the prophecy of Barrister Ben Muna one night outside the German fort upstation Bamenda.
The future is theirs. I'm 77. Mine is gone. I may die tomorrow. If we don't fight, our fathers will come from the graves to fight for them. They have the right to fight for it. The better fight, man. The better bloody fight. No liberty is gained by lying down and allowing people to walk on you.
Barrister Ben Muna invited the youth of Ambazonia to consent to any sacrifice needed, including 3 years out of school, in order to ensure that they have a better future.
Let them lose 1 year of school and get a better future. What are you talking about? Let them lose 2 years and get a better future.
A brave Ambazonian fighter, Fritz Takang alias Bush Hunter, appeared before the military tribunal in the colonizers' capital, Yaoundé, midweek.
This is Fritz Takang, the Bush Hunter.
Ahead of going before his oppressors before the military tribunal, Fritz Takang sent out a message of hope and courage to the people of Ambazonia.
Brothers and sisters, I want to salute your effort. I want to salute your courage, your smartness, your toughness of being there, to stand strong and tall, no matter the condition of the situation, no matter the consequence, because he who is afraid to die is not worthy to live.
The colonizers, who initially bragged about having obtained a successful start of the school year, had to go back and clean up after their own mess.
The school attendance rate stood at a dismal 2.36%. The teaching staff earned 2.86% attendance rate. The performance of the administrative staff stood at 9.52%.
Their leading propaganda house, CRTV of Lies, was the first out, leaking up its own vomit of the day before when it lied that turnout in schools had been massive.
We sincerely apologize for erroneously reading the figure 55 and 10,000 students expected in schools across the Northwest region as if they showed up on the first day. barely 1,299 students went to school in DONGA-MANTUNG, MENCHUM and MEZAM divisions.
Some of the propaganda on the success of the second week of the 3-week lockdown came back to bite its messengers in the mouth.
And all the soldiers for FAKO will be under the interim government, the IG. So I appreciate their effort and I appreciate all what they do because we are together.
So one of these days you go there for Manfre, for BOYO, for Victoria, and so on.
Chris Anu hooked up on phone call messengers, recorded and disseminated on social media, in which Chris Anu celebrated his own junior brother, Field Marshal, crediting him with bringing about a successful lockdown in FAKO and Meme states in the southern zone.
Field Marshal ma ever can boya. Na mountain lion, you worry boya. So I beg, na me, I send my picking there for boya. So me some man here again. So man tell the Field Marshal can boya.
The claims by Chris Anu and Field Marshal angered Restoration Force commanders in FAKO and Meme, and is being blamed for the decision by some of the commanders to leave everything in the hands of the Field Marshal. According to these angry commanders, it is all the credit being paid to one man that led them into not enforcing the lockdown and gave Mayor Ekema Patrick the victory lap he ran through open, running and booming markets in the BOYO municipality later in the week.
No places that are here. Entry territory they carry now and never come out of the territory. So me some man use for my name for the working money on top.
The week had started on a more promising note, with Amber Restoration Forces of the ADF under General Big Number posting video of their troops enforcing the lockdown.
ADF Modat Barak, General Big Number, is caught. So he's caught this. Fish is about to all over so. General Big Number beginning that. Where I am, where prepared. They wait for anything me can, other than that.
The big show of force somehow fizzled out in the course of the week in many localities of Ambazonia.
The Karakota one, the ADF Viper.
Serving, hopefully, another warning to those who are fond of demanding long lockdown periods that we must envisage actions that hurt the colonizer and enemy, not our people. You are listening to Ambazonia Calling, your space for educated news analysis, informed opinions and commentary towards the recognition of a free, independent Ambazonia. I am Ntumfoyn. Stay with us.
Ntumfoyn stays with us. He's got the second part of our news wrap-up for this week.
To Cameroon now, where people living with HIV/AIDS.
The Biya regime is about to leave HIV/AIDS patients to die. The diabolic plan is being triggered by the regime's failure to contribute its quota, a meager 25% of the overall cost for life-saving antiretroviral drugs for AIDS patients.
A cut in financing will negatively impact healthcare.
For the time being, patients will continue to receive the drugs until the end of the year, at which point failure by Yaoundé to pay up to $37 million owed in arrears to the World Health Program will cause the world body to end the assistance.
She now owes $47 million.
This is the monstrosity the world calls a government willing to kill its own people, notably the most vulnerable of them.
The ARVs have been available free of charge for several years now.
The colonial Minister of Justice for La République du Cameroun mocked a threat by lawyers who announced a decision to go on an indefinite strike beginning next September 16th.
Pour nous, il n'y a pas de grève des avocats. Il y a un abus de confiance entre un client qui a payé et un avocat qui n'a pas rempli sa mission. L'avocat a comme patron le client qui a payé et qui doit attendre un service. Donc si l'avocat ne va pas à l'audience, il ne peut pas dire qu'il est en grève. Cela ne concerne pas le fonctionnement de l'État. Et le client est en droit d'engager une poursuite contre cet avocat pour abus de confiance. Il a pris de l'argent, il n'a pas rempli sa mission.
Laurent Esso told a press conference essentially that what passes for a court or justice system in colonial Cameroon does not need lawyers to function.
La loi a prévu ce que l'on fait lorsque les avocats ne sont pas à l'audience.
Et il n'y a aucun obstacle pour que cela se passe ainsi.
He cited the fact that courts never stopped functioning during years of strike by lawyers in Ambazonia.
Aucun tribunal n'a été fermé. Aucun. Toutes les juridictions ont fonctionné parce que nous tenions à manifester l'indépendance du pouvoir judiciaire par rapport aux turbulences politiques.
Laurent Eso did not even finish issuing his threats of holding lawyers responsible for breach of trust with clients if they do not show up in court than the chicken-hearted bar council buckled in. The leading propaganda shop of the colonial regime, CRTV of Lies, confirmed that they had received notice from the bar council cancelling the strike action and, as usual, claiming to have made progress at a midnight meeting with the same Laurent Eso before whom they reported in order to capitulate without so much as organizing just 1 day of strike action. The colonial administration in Meme State says it will walk in the footsteps of the evil-filled, rigged-to-power mayor of Boya, Patrick Ekema.
I have just one message. They have to come and open their shops because we are tired. We are tired. They cannot continue to disgrace us like that.
On Saturday, at the start of the 2-day break in the 3-week lockdown, colonial forces in the main city of Kumba stormed food markets in the town and trampled afoot or destroyed the merchandise of traders. They notably targeted foodstuffs in what the colonizers have promised will be a merciless effort to starve Ambazonians into submission and surrender. The goal is to prevent Ambazonians in Kumba and all across Meme from stocking up over this weekend ahead of the third and final week of the lockdown, which begins next Monday. This is the same municipality which bragged about having taxi bike riders on their side in boycotting ghost towns and lockdowns, only to have themselves royally disgraced when bike riders continue to down tools and respect actions initiated by the pro-independence groups. The trouble with organizing successful lockdowns and prosecuting self-defense in the most effective and efficient way remains the lack of resources, financial and material.
They don't over-resist, they don't get means. They don't over-resist, so they don't get means.
Restoration forces have invested blood, limb and life in the struggle, and thanks to their bravery, a lot has been won. Yet, the cry rings out for war gear to be provided in order for them to take on the occupation forces more efficiently.
So we need weapons because we'll be ready to fight the LEBIALEM. As long as we delay, this thing is long, picking it develop some kind of thing for the headway in our fight.
In one video posted on social media this week, restoration forces in DONGA-MANTUNG state in Ambazonia's northern state issued a plea for Ambazonians to realize that the only way of remedying the swindling of funds under the MTTB project and sustaining the revolution has to be for the diaspora to provide real modern weapons.
You want we come, you hear some group, then they from Messager, then they decide from Bino, where you know be Amber, and they go exploiting and they in the name of Amber.
Restoration forces in DONGA-MANTUNG say they are planning on a major push into and take over of the city of Kambe, but cannot defend themselves with the mostly hunting rifles and den guns a majority of them still carry.
Muna support weapons. Move in tank Kambe, tank, drone Kambe into dust. Oha. Yeah. Oha.
Whatever shortcomings have marred the revolution so far, one audio message this week spoke for every Ambazonian who appreciates the sacrifice of those on ground zero and in the diaspora who are working day and night for the restoration of the independence of Ambazonia.
I want to really thank the ground zero fighters them. They don't do their part 100%. Now for diaspora, we don't see how ground zero is sacrifice. Some of we there for diaspora, would drive big motor, would work, we own big company them, would work for big company them. Now because say some people they don't put their money down, some people put their blood and their life down for semi freedom come. So we get for make sure say we own territory become free. We don't see the trend for the things that already happen for South Africa. That one don't go end for South Africa. Now the new thing that go happen for the whole world. We get for start open with mind the things say one day we get for return for territory.
Another video of La République du Cameroon agents posing as Ambazonia self-defense freedom fighters for the restoration of independence has been uncovered.
Now, me where the commissioner General Mufta for route.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, I done the hunt on so many times.
In a 1 minute 30 seconds video that has been shared over and over on social media, fake Amber boys fake the torture of an alleged spy that they purport to have invaded Amber ranks.
Anglophone they fight for the right, and you know, baby, they come every day for can't kill them.
On close attention, it is tomato paste or ketchup that has been applied to his face and other bodily parts. The alleged spy refuses to take any orders from his alleged interrogators, including an order to clean the blood on his arm so as to expose the depth of his wounds.
Show your hands, check your hands. I want me all man see that wounded one. Now sample I give. Wipe me clean. Yes.
At Ambazonia Calling, we note that these are the videos that Human Rights Watch has based its reporting and condemnation of self-defense freedom fighters, and explaining away why many suspect that they are in the pocketbooks of the Biya bloodhounds. In foreign news, President Biya of Cameroon has been crowned king of the Bulos. In a coronation ceremony that has since gone viral on social media, the tribal king monarch appears to be in a worse state of health than when his wife Chantal Biya was helping him raise his hands to wave at a state event. It is obvious from the video that the man should be in hospice, but the kingmakers are helping and clearly telling the world, Biya may be a thief, but he is our thief, and we will protect him. Finally, the streets in South Africa continue to be the scene of the beastly lynching of blacks from other African countries, notably from Nigeria. The black-on-black crimes that some described as xenophobic left the world and well-meaning South Africans who welcome fellow Africans very angry. It triggered a shame campaign around the world, with decent South Africans distancing themselves from the disgrace. South African president belatedly joined the long line of those condemning the horror in the strongest of terms, with many activists slamming the ANC government for doing too little, too late.
Innocent Nigerians are dying, no. Buhari, where you there? Buhari, where you there? Buhari, where you there?
A number of activists call for a return to Apartheid Day sanctions and boycotts, this time targeting the ANC to force stricter enforcement of the laws and protection of foreign nationals based in or visiting South Africa. Innocent Chia, from Ambazonia Calling.
Ambazonia Calling. You are in the heart of the news shrine. Call us the Kalakuta Republic of commentary, opinion, and editorials. Over the last 1 year and a little more, many of you have asked whether you could donate to Ambazonia Calling. We have systematically said no, not to Ambazonia Calling. We want you now to donate to a project we are putting together to support our revolution. We want you to donate. The 12,000 of you averagely who listen to us online on SoundCloud and on YouTube every week, we want you to donate anything you can donate. Please donate so that we can subsidize the buses that will bring people from the Washington, D.C. area to New York for the demonstration in the margins of the United Nations General Assembly. You can provide that donation through a Cash App. The number associated with the Cash App is 202-262-0422. You can put the money into a bank account. The routing for that bank account is 05220-4359. The bank account 7150683. Routing number 05220-4359. Bank account 7150683, and the Cash App number 202-262-0422. The name on that Cash App, Herbert. Thank you for your generous donation. We will account for every single dollar.
Welcome to our special interview segment, The Devil Unmasked, The Truth Out.
We are receiving on The Devil Unmasked our comrade, Dr. Ebenezer Akwanga. You need no introduction, no presentation, the leader of the Africa People's Liberation Movement. So let's just hit it. Welcome to The Devil Unmasked.
Thank you very much, Comrade Ntumfoyn.
You are worried about the Ambazonian struggle. Even as we make progress, we are on the second week of the lockdown, going into week 3. What is your biggest trouble with the lockdown?
We all agree that we are at war with La République du Cameroun, a war they declared on us. There is no war that has ever been fought in the world where in the course of that war, one side, directly or indirectly, declares ghost towns and lockdown. It has never happened before.
What happens?
It is a monumental blunder that we have made. What normally is supposed to happen is that you supply your fighters with the necessity to defend themselves. You give them all the equipment that they need. Their actions on the ground will let everybody to know that I need to stay indoors. It will let everyone to know that markets should not open. It will let everyone to know that in the course of this war, you cannot open councils for people to go and make marriages, that even churches will be shut down. And when it happens like that, the population will not throw their blame on the fighters in any format, neither will they throw their blame on the leadership of the fighting forces. But when in the course of a war, you decide to say, no, now is lockdown. We have lockdown for 2 days. We have ghost town for 3 days. No, that is not a liberation war. And that is why we are having all these difficulties. That is a political revolution. To me, I am thinking that the people, our people, even the younger generation who were, maybe they went to the University of BOYO or they were in secondary school in the 90s and all the rest, they have moved into the Southern Cameroon's Ambazonian struggle with the mentality of the 1990, the Union for Change and the SDF ghost town mentality. It is not going to work for our people. And that is why our people are blaming us, and they are 100% right.
You are saying, in other words, that a civil war that has turned genocidal on our people is a war that our people should supply the means for our people to get these self-defense means and prosecute the war, so that when you know that you must lock down, you lock down.
Exactly. We are not. It is not us or the fighters to declare lockdowns. It has never happened anywhere in the world. Take the simplest example of even Central African Republic or Sierra Leone or Liberia or even Somalia. What is wrong with us in this struggle? Everybody has become an expert in guerrilla warfare or in issues of self-defense. And the worst shock is that people that I know have worked with me and who understand what to do are doing the same mistake. You do not declare ghost town. That is why our people have every right to blame us. We cannot be declaring ghost town for them to be escaping either to neighboring Nigeria or escaping back to the territory of the same people who have imbued war on us. Let us supply the necessary equipment to our fighters. It will be our people themselves who will lock themselves indoors.
And you're also saying, I mean, when you free up territory and you have people under your control who are accepting your command because you are the freedom fighters, then you give them freedom in territory that you control.
You are 100% correct. You speak like an expert, like someone who has been involved in guerrilla warfare, know-how. I can assure you that everything we have said is right. The problem we have is that there are a lot of wannabe politicians and political activists who have entered into this liberation struggle with that mindset. They have failed to realize. That is why you see, I hardly use the word revolution. I know we had a political revolution when the demonstrations and everything was going on and we were beating lawyers. But I know we have long passed that level. We are now doing what we call a liberation struggle. Because if you see our own struggle, it is technically different from that of Liberia. Charles Taylor wanted power, he wanted Samuel Doe out. That was what we call internal self-determination. Sierra Leone was equally an issue of internal self-determination, or that of the Casamans, or the Oromians, or those of the Ntwakazes in Zimbabwe, or Barusaland in Malawi. Ours is the foremost and the latest liberation struggle in the continent of Africa. And we should pursue it as a people who want to liberate themselves externally. So what do we need to do? We don't need to add the sufferings of our people. Let our forces on the ground, their actions, compel our people or make our people to take the decisions that are necessary.
So they take that decision for their safety, not
exactly. If the local population on their own realizes that bullets are flying all over the place, that bombs are exploding, I can tell you that when they themselves declare ghost towns by taking safety precautions, they will no longer turn and be blaming people abroad or even some of the fighters that you are giving pain to us. No, they would know that what is going on is the necessity of the war. In fact, some of them will be supporting it.
Part of the stuff where it becomes a little joke is when one faction thinks that this is a competition. When you lock down, I will not lock down. I'm going to ruin your own strategy.
Which is what has been causing problem in this struggle. That I need to control a part of the territory. And if I control that part of the territory, tomorrow when that external self-determination comes, I'm going to call the shots. In fact, some people are preparing themselves for warlordism. Comrade Ntumfoyn, you can check the record. I have never declared ghost towns. I've never been involved in this type of crazy fighting where this will say, let me declare this, declare. No. The reason why you see all these ghost towns is not only political foolery. It is because our people are trying to use shortcuts. They don't want to supply our fighters the necessary requirement for them to fight on the ground. They are instead trying to put them at risk. Let me tell you this. Every time we declare ghost towns and lockdown, we lost more fighters. We put them in danger because we remove them from the position of guerrilla fighters. Guerrilla fighters are supposed not to expose themselves. We put them in danger because they need to enforce these lockdowns and the rest. You do not do that in the course of a war. Are we fighting a civil war? Are we at war with La Republic? If the answer is yes, we must stop all these declarations of ghost towns. I don't care from which side or lockdowns. And provide the equipment to these boys. And these boys will not declare ghost towns and lockdowns. They will carry out their actions on the ground, and the population themselves will realize that because of the ongoing action, there is the necessity for safety at that particular moment.
What you call tomfoolery, we can also see it from people who think that they can come out and say, you know, we're now asking you to surrender. We are calling the people to come out and chase Amber boys from out of their communities. You would dare not do that in a war.
You cannot do those type of things in the course of a war. This is an issue of life and death. There are young men and women who have died who will never come back. We can build them national cemeteries tomorrow. They are gone. That is the fact. It is not just the issue of the leadership. It is the Ambazonian class. Everybody out here, the female, the male, everybody has become a champion. And what are they doing? They are causing more chaos and more death on the ground. Look, we have the capacity to seize territories and hold. We make a fool of ourselves because people came with ideas which does not work in a liberation struggle. And that is why we find ourselves where we are.
So it is important for the pursuit of the self-defense of our people that despite whatever errors have been made, including money that has been swindled, that our people continue to make sure that self-defense happens because they provide the resources with which that will happen.
I have said it from the very beginning and I want to repeat it. This has been the position of the SCY, which is the position of the APLM, and which is the general position in the liberation struggle. It is only self-defense that will make the machinery of civil diplomacy to work. Remember that war is an act of diplomacy. Remember that even the actions Biya took in court, in his kangaroo military tribunal, is an act of diplomacy. All of those things, they fall within the diplomatic network in the course of a liberation struggle. I said it before, that you want to demonstrate, if you want people to take your demonstration seriously, start instituting self-defense on the ground and do it well. If you want to make sure when you knock the office of a diplomat in any country that will listen to you, let your fighters be doing the right thing on the ground. And every war has its rules and regulations. You cannot just fight a war because you think you want to fight a war. Let me give you one example. If there are some Ambazonian fighters who are wearing the uniforms of La République terrorists after bringing them down, that is against international humanitarian law. Even those La République terrorists who we discovered that they were fabricating T-shirts of the ADF and at times Sokadef to put on them, because that is the insignia of recognized self-defense groups. When you take their insignia and put on, you are committing a war crime. All of these things are condemned under international humanitarian law. The La République soldiers who are professionals, as they call themselves, or terrorists, they don't follow it. They are going to pay the price, I can assure you. There are Southern Cameroonian or Ambazonian fighters, brave fighters, who think that when they bring down some of these guys, they should take their uniforms, which is against international law, they put it on. You cannot do this in a liberation struggle.
Let us push this issue of crimes, war crimes, a little bit more, because it is a serious matter. It is not because you fight a war that it means you can commit any act. You have responsibilities under the Geneva Convention. I want you to remind the people on ground zero, our brave self-defenders, on things they should not do.
Our first priority as guerrilla fighters, that is why we call ourselves liberators. We don't call ourselves just revolutionaries, we are liberators. To liberate, I don't want to teach here for people to find out where that word comes from and what it means. We call ourselves liberators. As a guerrilla fighter, your first priority is to protect your community. That is your priority number one. And by protecting your community means you don't need your community to be afraid of you. You need them to love you, because you can protect a community in a way that you make them to become scared of you. And you lose sight to think that that fear is love. That is what La République is facing. For more than 58 years, they put the people of Southern Cameroon, Ambazonia, under fear. And they thought that it was love. No, there is no love in that country. That is what we call a temporal negative peace. And that is what every true guerrilla fighter should avoid. You must make sure the local community loves you, number one. Number two, you must respect international signs like that of the Red Cross or humanitarian organizations or the Red Crescent. When you see them, you respect them, because it's an abrogation of international law when you go start arresting or kidnapping Doctors Without Borders, International Committee of the Red Cross, and the rest. And it is also a war crime if a terrorist like La République du Cameroon, we go and make fake insignia of the Red Cross or Doctors Without Borders and put on cars, civilian cars, and then they move into the war territory while they have snipers in there to start shooting on our boys. That is a war crime they are committing. They might not know that's what they are doing. It is equally important that we know that our success in this war is not just the equipments we have and our bravery. It is our population. Protecting them and letting them know that we are far better and will be far, far better than the annexationists is priority number one. You cannot make the population think that they will prefer to go back and become slaves and remain as slaves forever. No, this war will come to an end. The whole notion of the way we prosecute this war, some of the things we do on the ground, we should stop doing things we are not supposed to do and only claiming that all of these things are being done by the Atangaji boys. No, they are Ambazonian fighters who are being promoted by people abroad, who are giving them advice and using them like as if they are warlords, giving them the impression to do things they are not supposed to do on the ground. I am making this very, very clear. 95% of our fighters are doing the right thing. But even if we have 1%, 0.00%, that are not following the Geneva Convention, they are going to pay the price. By the time that the general freedom of the people of Ambazonia will come, they will be losing their own freedom. People like us will be the one who pinpoint them, because we are not going to allow impunity in our homeland.
And it is important to point out that the civilian population will be available to testify against these people. Anyone who wants to terrorize our people now in the hope that they could hide in the future. They will not have a place to hide.
Comrade Ntumfoyn, if you rape a girl, you kill even that girl, someone is going to speak out tomorrow. These things are happening. That is what happened between the Hutus and the Tutsis. Why we are calling for war criminals from La République to be arrested, to be indicted. The international community does not work that way. By the time they will be indicting them, they will also be indicting people from our own side. Whoever those people are, an account is being set on them. It doesn't matter whether you have a German passport, an American passport, a French passport, a British passport, you are going to answer for it. Those who go online and tell other people to become what I call Sambukari. You know who Sambukari did in Sierra Leone? Yes, cutting people's hands, cutting their lips, cutting their legs, beheading people. They are going to pay for it.
Those are war crimes.
Know that these things are not going to be forgiven. Because if you forgive these things, then we are going to have a chaotic society tomorrow after freedom.
And it is important also to point out to people who think that they can go to the disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration program under La République and they will benefit from immunity and impunity. That is not going to work. They are not going to have amnesty.
This is not how you organize DDR. If you make a mistake in DDR, in trying to implement it, it is going to be catastrophic. You might take the next 10 to 20 years, you will not be able to ever achieve it. So my advice is simple. La République du Cameroon should stop doing all these cosmetic stuff. It is not going to work. They have tried it for 58 years, it did not work. John Gute is making a fool of himself. All this is national dialogue and the rest is a waste of time. Listen, La République will come to the table as a party in a conflict. Ambazonia will come to the table as a party in a conflict.
Equal party with Ambazonia. Equal party. It's important for them to know.
It's never going to be the state of La République coming to meet some non-state actors or opposition. No, it is going to be two warring parties that have to come to the table to talk. That is how it's going to be. And when both sides come to the table, it's going to be 50-50. You can lose part of your 50% depending on how you go out to negotiate. So you have to prepare for that. For me, what is most important is not just that we agree and move to the negotiating table to show that we are matured enough and that we are not fighting to destroy, we are fighting to build our own homeland. But my greatest wish now is that people who have no knowledge of guerrilla warfare, I am asking each one to back off. Don't call these boys on the ground. Leave them alone and stop confusing them. Because they are making our work more difficult. There are young men who have been advised on the ground. They shoot on all women. I know generals who have done these things. They kill all women in NDIAN, kill all men in NDIAN that they should give them their witchcraft. They want to use it to catch ammo cars. And these people are being sponsored by people in China, sponsored by people in the US, sponsored by people in Europe. I am saying that the time is going to come for people to answer. To conclude, let me make it clear. There is no clean war. War is never a good thing. But nobody should declare war on you and you give up in the name of peace. No, that is not peace, it's suicide. You have to fight and fight back heroically. So what I'm saying is simple. There are mistakes that can be done in the course of war. Because even the most trained professionals from West Point, which is the best military academy in the world, they make errors in the field, especially what they see happening to their own comrades who are fighting. So our fighters can make error. But there is a difference between error and conscious decisions. Decisions which people have informed you that go around kidnapping your own people, go around beheading people, or go around beating the local population. Some even go to areas they want to impose traditional rulers. They want to impose traditional council. You cannot be a guerrilla fighter and you are there to be judging land issues. You judge marital issues. You get into issues which you don't, it is not within your confines. Fight and liberate your homeland. And when you are fighting, you don't go to commit suicide. We don't have 11 virgins or 12 virgins as Islam says that will be given to you tomorrow. So you are fighting to stay alive because you need to stay alive to liberate your land. But if you fall, it should be that you fell because you were supposed to fall, not consciously that maybe you took drugs and the drugs make you to become so bold that you see the enemy coming. Instead of you taking cover as a guerrilla fighter, you stand there, the enemy is shooting you, nothing is happening until they will catch you and use an axe to decapitate you. You are not a guerrilla fighter. You are not only putting yourself at risk, you are risking all other guerrilla fighters who are with you.
Let's turn to another topic here, which is a hot topic, is the issue of negotiation. And you just said it a moment ago. This is about negotiating freedom for the people of Ambazonia and negotiating independence. I'm glad you and I were together in Switzerland with respect to putting the foundation for this stuff. Let the people of Ambazonia know this is something to which we invite every liberation movement, every Ambazonian who is interested in telling the international community, which is all at that table, what exactly our people want, and to say it to them boldly and straight to their face, and to tell them that we will never back down.
Our people should understand one thing, and I want to say this categorically clear. People have personally, they have depersonalized me, they have given me all types of names and the rest, and they have added you and other comrades on it. It is part of the process. If we don't take risks and insult from our own comrades, what about the young men and women who are risking their lives on ground zero? So there is nothing that we should be afraid of, the insults and the lies and all the stuff that people are throwing on us. Our resolve is simple. We want La République to come to the table. When La République said they will be ready to talk, they thought we will not be ready to talk. We have told them that we are ready. So we are telling them that we are matured enough, come to the table. All of us know exactly what is going to happen. The question is simple. Can anyone show us where any conflict in the world, any violent conflict, have ever ended without some settlement on the table? The point is, if you don't go to the table now, you might lose like the Tamil Tigers in Sri Lanka, who had all the opportunity to carve out a homeland of their own. But they thought that, no, this will not be enough. We need to take more territory. And the rest of the world washed their hands and tactically asked Sri Lanka that finished with them. Sri Lanka has almost decapitated the entire Tamils. The few that are remaining under leadership are those who are in the UK. La République du Cameroun, they should understand one thing. We are never going to go back to that state that they call La République.
Never.
So
let me join you in saying that. Never.
We are merely telling them that if we don't talk now, we are going to talk tomorrow. It might not be me who will be going to Switzerland. It might be somebody else. We will either talk today and reduce the number of young men and women who are going to lose their lives and give them a reason to live and build that new homeland. And even those from La République to go back and build their own homeland. Or we are going to postpone these discussions, this negotiated, comprehensive negotiation process, and allow more young men and women to die. It is an American president who said, never ever fear to negotiate, but never ever negotiate out of fear. That is what Franklin Delano Roosevelt said. So we should prepare ourselves. Any Ambazonian who entered into this fight without preparing that one day we are going to sit across the table with La République, talk on the terms of separation, then that Ambazonian is not an Ambazonian. It's someone who has been soaked by the mentality of La République du Cameroun. We are going to sit on the table. This is going to happen. People can throw anything they want to throw out there. The only advice I'm giving to them, prepare yourself on the terms of discussion on the table. Because this train has left the station. No one will stop it. If any Ambazonian is more conscious while the talks are going on, we must up our game on the ground, because that is what La République is doing. What La République is doing at this moment, what they did with our comrades in prison, which I want to inform you that some are going to be sentenced to death very soon. I've got the information. They will sentence them to death. And if we are not careful, some might be executed. I don't want to call names of some of the people that they are already planning to do that. As part of the struggle, this is going to happen. I don't know the shock some of our people are going to receive. For me, everything is normal because I expected that it's going to happen. This happened during the liberation struggle. People should be prepared for these things. But what I'm saying is simple. If we don't up our game on the ground, we should not think that because La République du Cameroun said, yes, we want to talk, it means the war is over. No, that negotiation is part of the war effort.
Yep.
It is part of the war. Let us up our game on the ground and stop removing our eyes from the ball. La République is doing what any other people will do. We are not doing our own part. We are supposed to now, at this moment, make sure that if we have escalated to 90%, our escalation to go to 175 over 100 at this moment. We are not doing that. We keep complaining. These people say they want to talk to us. See what they are doing. What do you expect from them? They are trying to gain grounds so that by the time the renegotiation begins, they will come to the table more stronger than us. So we should make sure we up our game on the ground. We start thinking of even holding territory. We stop making all this propaganda of, I am in FAKO, I am here with this and that. Do the real job on the ground. Let the things you do on the ground speak for themselves, not your mouth. That is what every true Ambazonian should be doing now, rather than saying that, oh, I will not go to Switzerland, I will not do this. The talks have come to stay. The UN backs it. The EU backs it. The African Union, even the lame duck African Union backs it. Canada is sponsoring it. Switzerland is there. The United States is there. Even the Commonwealth. So at the end of the day, I don't know who else the one to back it. This is the process. It is one process. We must make use of it. If we discover at any time there is any foul play, it is our right to back out. It happens in all peace talks. So nobody should stay behind and start pointing a finger. No, we should instead credit Switzerland that of all the mighty countries in the world, they were able to put that diplomacy at risk, because if it fails, it will not only be La Republique clamoring on them, it will also be us, and that will tarnish their image in the international community. So it is a major risk they have taken. And that is the same reason I am applauding Canada for quietly backing the process and financing whatever is going on. So any individual who is staying behind, you will finally declare yourself a pariah. We are going forward, we are not coming back. If you come late, we are not going to wind the clock to start the process. We know the real talks with La Republique have not started, but we are asking everyone who is supposed to be on the table to be on the table. This is the moment for liberationists. People with the mindset to liberate homeland. People who are running liberation movements, not civil society or anything. This is what is going to happen. Come to the table and prepare our people and prepare yourself for us to face La Republique du Cameroon on another level of this war effort.
And it is important to also point out the other danger that we face. There's the big danger where you hear people saying, do not hear anything from the diaspora. The biggest win that La Republique could score is to break us, those of us in the diaspora, with the people on the ground, and get people to think that you can run a liberation movement exclusively from action on the ground and from a command structure on the ground.
You have just said something that is connected to the situation in South Africa. You see what is happening in South Africa? The greatest players to the liberation of the people of South Africa, to the internal self-determination of the Africans in South Africa, is the Republic of Tanzania, the Republic of Zambia, the Republic of Mozambique, and even Angola. These were the key frontline states, including Nigeria, which is far off the other way. It is in Tanzania where Mkutu Wasizwe, backed by the South African Communist Party and the African National Congress, and even the Pan-African Congress, that is where all their forces, the guerrillas, were trained. Even the fighters of Frelimo, the Front de Libération Mozambique, they trained in Tanzania. We should not forget that Samora Machel died because of the anti-apartheid struggle. In other words, if the diaspora is not involved, nothing works, period. You can check it anywhere. The only reason Charles Taylor and his band were able to succeed in Liberia was because they invaded Liberia from outside. They had a free passage from Guinea. They entered the territory and they started opening and going. If they just started inside Liberia, I am telling you, somewhere Canyon Do with all the spies and everything, it would have been more complicated. Our boys are brave, our girls are brave. Left to them alone, they will not go anywhere. The only problem is we have so many negative instructors from outside. I am not talking of the spies and surrogates of La Republique. I am talking of Ambazonians with a genuine intention to change things on the ground, yet most of them have been doing the wrong thing. And they don't come to realize that this is not my fear. I have no idea about how to liberate a people, but I have a good voice I can use. Use that voice and limit it only to the area where you have received a gift from God or from your forefathers. Don't become something that you are not. Because if you want to become jack of all trades, you cannot find activists who are declaring ghost town, which they are not supposed to do. Activists who are talking to generals on the ground and giving them instructions. In fact, they run everything. And in this world of social media, one disadvantage that we Ambazonians have, which is also an advantage, is that most of these liberation struggles and even internal self-determination struggles, they were no cell phones. There was no WhatsApp and the rest. So these people can stay focused. It was not easy to divert them. You need to travel, trek distance, even in the bush, to go and pass message to another guerrilla unit somewhere. But with cell phones and the rest, everybody has become a broadcaster, everybody is a liberation leader, everybody is a pastor, everybody is everything. That is the complexity of our struggle. And let us take note of that. Because if we don't take note of it, we will not be able to find a way to navigate through it. We should realize that it is doing a lot of harm to us, and then find a way that we can navigate through it so that we use only the positive of the social media rather than all this negativity.
Also, and this will be my last question to you, given the trouble we've had, just coming together, just collaborating, just sticking together, the negotiations offer a unique opportunity for us to come together, because after all, we have to have a common position, a common strategy, a common team Ambazonia to go in and face and take down La République du Cameroun. What is your call to the other people who are sitting out?
It is important for everyone who knows that they are supposed to be on the table to come to the table. We are not going to put a rope on anybody's neck to drag them, but we know what we can do. This, I'm saying it, in diplomacy, when situations like this come and you want to turn yourself to a pariah, to an entire struggle, the international community is watching you. Everyone has a contribution to make in the struggle. So you don't come to the table and put your voice, nobody is going to hear your voice. If you sing in your room, you don't make sure that that music you are playing is probably going to enter into an album where you can sing into a crowd and people hear the beautiful voice of your melody and even know the song, what you have written, your message. Then you cannot call yourself a singer or a songwriter or a musician. It will end in your room. So you need to come out and bring those ideas. The greatest problem we have, which is the greatest weakness with man, is man's inability to accept that maybe I made a mistake, I misjudged the whole process. No, not everything is going to come your way. That is why we went to Belgium. We did not go to Belgium complaining that a particular group was responsible for making us to come to Belgium. That is the spirit you should have. So if others are pushing something that you think is good for your people, you join it. If you think there is something fishy, you don't go attacking others. Come meet them behind and discuss it with them and tell them that, please, why we are doing this thing like this, we should open our eyes in this way. You don't think that when you go around, you attack them, you do this, you are doing anything. No, you are harming the people on the ground. And let me make it. There are many of us who are leaders, many of us who are Ambazonians, who have betrayed our people several times. You can betray this struggle by just going out and trying to blacklist legitimate people who are fighting for this thing. That is an act of treachery, it's an act of betrayal, it's an anti-liberationist tendency. So all of these things put together are more dangerous than somebody who even goes and take money from La République. I can tell you that I know Diongute. I know where he belongs. I know where Tanganji belongs. Because I know I can't trust him. But you who is talking with me, if you turn now against the people and start doing certain things, you are worse than a Tanganji because you are with me. You can put a bullet on my back without me knowing. So that is the danger that we face in the struggle. And we must be careful.
Two last things, and I was saying was my last question, but it's hard to let you go. Number one, if you are on ground zero right now, you are a target of La République. You will be taken down unless you defend yourself. So even if you are not a fighter, you've got to survive. It is about survival for our people.
When you are fighting guerrilla warfare, the territory where the guerrillas are, every individual in that territory, big or small, becomes a guerrilla fighter. Guerrilla fighter does not necessarily need you to hold a gun and carry bullets. You can do so many other things. That is why they use the word guerrilla. So every Ambazonian is a guerrilla fighter. Unless you don't want to protect yourself. I am not there on ground zero. That when they come to that area, you will say you will not attack. You are waiting for Dr. Akwanga to give you, go ahead whether you should defend yourself or not. No, it doesn't work that way. You must prepare yourself. Don't go and dress and wear CWF uniform or CYF or CWA and you carry yourself into the church on Sunday while there are bullets passing around as if you pray in your house, God will not hear your prayers. You are risking your life and risking the life of your children and every other person. So in a nutshell, we are all involved in this war efforts. My number one advice, I don't want to use the word warning, to every fighter on ground zero, you must protect our civilian population. Protect them. Let them love you. Let them not be afraid of you to give you something. Let whatever is given to you out of love. Because those of you who become armed robbers, those of you who become thieves and robbers, who become rapists, molesters, you are going to pay for it. I am saying this today, I will say it tomorrow. Whether you belong to SOCADEF, you will pay for it. You belong to ADF, you belong to Red Dragons, you belong to which group on ground zero? Even the ribbons, where I know there are a lot of atrocities that have been committed by some of the top leadership on ground zero. I am telling you, before my mother and my father, who have died, I have not seen them. International humanitarian law is going to catch up with you. We don't care whether the Republic signed the Rome Statute. No, that is not important for us.
Yep.
People are going to be brought to book.
So the last one will be, it is important for us to clarify that those of us who are at these negotiations, it's not because every leader, all of us are going there as the negotiators. There will be expert negotiators who will deal with this other aspect. It's not just because you're a leader that it means you should be at the table.
Comrade Ntumfoyn, I am the leader of SOCADEF. SOCADEF is my priority number one. I will not have time to go and sit on a negotiating table, on a negotiation that I don't know how long it's going to take. It can take 5 years. It can take 3 years. It can take 1 year. It can take 9 months. When the negotiation is going on, I have to make sure that the war effort increases on the ground. That will be my priority. I am not going to be a negotiator. I studied that in school. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. You are not going to do that because I know very well I cannot sit across the table with La Republique. I'm going to lose my mind. I will cross that table. Before somebody discovers, I might have used a pen and somebody's eye might have come out. So I know because somebody might provoke me. Then I think of all our people who have died, my generals, the women and all the others, I might lose my mind. Negotiators have to be calm and calculated. It is just like you have a center forward or you have specific players who are choosing to kick the penalty kick. Not everybody kicks penalty. The first 5 kickers should be the best in your team. Everybody can kick, but they begin with the first best kickers. That is why our people should understand that Switzerland are not negotiators. The negotiators are going to come from Party 1, Ambazonia, Party 2, La République du Cameroun. The Swiss are mediators, middle people who will be there to make sure don't blow. So when you begin to hear, they say, oh, Norway is coming on board. This, I don't even want to go into that because I've talked to some persons that are linked up to the Norwegian stuff. All of this brouhaha is a waste of time. Norway can come on board.
They are on board. They are part of the European Union. Come on.
Good. No, that's what I'm trying to say. They can be guarantors, which the European Union can be guarantors. The United States can be guarantors. The UN can be guarantors. We can even use what we call the Troika. It is the Troika system that was used between Southern Sudan and Sudan. We can bring the Troika. There are negotiators. The most important thing about this issue on this negotiation will be the agenda. The agenda is going to decide the pathway the negotiation will take. If the final agenda, because there must be an agenda before they begin the renegotiation, if the agenda does not show that it's going to be a comprehensive issue, then we can begin to say, no, we are not going to be party to this. It's the agenda that counts priority. If everything is on the agenda, then we must prepare ourselves because the other side is coming with all types of games, all types of tricks, but everything will be on the table. Our priority number one checklist is total and unconditional freedom. The Southern Sudanese and the Sudanese were calling it the CPA, Comprehensive Peace Agreement. We can give it any name, but what we are saying is it is going to be a comprehensive negotiation.
Thank you very much, Chairman Akwanga. I could hold you here for 4 days, but I know that we got to roll the program along. So thank you very much for coming on The Devil on Mass. We could not have a better person to explain this to our people. Thank you, Chairman Akwanga.
Thank you very much.
Our youth demo, they can't finish. Our boys demo, they don't finish. From Manfred to Boya, from Bamenda to Southwest. No shade every day, oh, killing every day. People they die every day. Like say they been a chicken. My people lay. Prayer is the key. Oh, may we pray, oh.
Make we pray.
Oh, make we pray.
Make we pray.
Oh, make we pray.
Make we pray.
Ramagade, legede. Oh, Ramosandala, Rosagade.
Make we pray.
Mika Brazandala.
Make we pray.
Jesus.
Make we pray.
Do not forget, we've got that new segment that's coming up, Big Mob Corner. Jakri Day, Big Mob Day, Tory Long, na time short.
Oh, na 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 na. The cracks. Rastaman love me. Everybody love me.
Ambazonia's freedom, Africa's liberation. Our theme is coined from the very teachings of Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Independence of Ghana is not complete until Africa is totally liberated. If Ambazonia's freedom is not achieved, then Africa cannot talk of its liberation. So we have come to Ghana to start a new dynamism in the continent of Africa.
Ramagade, legede, oh, Rabosantala, brozagade, Lika brazandala, Jesus. Papa God, intervene for we, do for we, as you do for the Israelites. The way who they suffer, in the life say you don't forget we. Papa God, intervene for we. Orphans are crying, widows are crying, fatherless children are crying, the less privileged are crying. Oh, may we pray. Oh, may we pray. Oh, northwest and southwest, when I come together, may we pray. Oh, prayer is a key. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, let me pray. Oh, let me pray. Oh, let me pray.
Big Mob Corner. Jakri Day, Big Mob Day, Tory Long, na time short. Na Mami Ojong for market for Kumba Day for K-Town. Mami Ojong we pikin baby Okada rider we die among that 7 pikin them where they kill him for Kumba after Massa Colonial SGO come out talk say, oh man, he don't left Ghost Town. Mami Ojong na he will leave him today for Big Mob Corner.
Good afternoon, all my people, my brothers and sisters. I beg any person if you help me pass this message, make it go reach for SGO for Kumba. My name na Mami Lucy Ojong. I did come for Kante SGO for Kumba say the last time where it be say me were people them made them come out. I get one son where be the drive Okada. It will be among those 7 boys them when they be kill them. And I want make SGO for Kumba make you understand say me I don't already lost one son because of ye. This time around I not go listen to what the talk. If he wants to make I open my shop for Monday, I want make SGO give my own protection. Make it give my own 2 army. Make it give my own armor car. Make it also give me my own bulletproof vest. Make I wear them for my skin so that I go know so I be protected. I stand canque. That time I feel go open my store. So I want make everybody understand. I beg person where if he help me pass this message, make it go straight to SDO for Kumba. Tell ye say na me, Mami Ojong. After I don't lost one son, from what we do last time, I no fit take that risk because I no get security like ye. As you get the security, get ammo car to work out, way to work out with them. You get gendarme, police, military, or be people the way to work out with them. Me, Mami Ojong, after I don't lost one son from which way, also make Okada boys and come out. Among the people, the boys where they be lost, I lost one. I no fit lost another son. I no fit take the risk of my own self. I beg my people, any person if you hear me, make this message, make it reach for SGO for Kumba. Make una help me tell SGO for Kumba. Say na me, Mami Ojong Lucy, I get my shop for Kumba, and I don't lost one pikin, Okada pikin, because of what way he done last time. I no go take me risk on Monday. Except he go send me one armor car, he go send me at least 2B where they go be with me, and then give my own bulletproof. Now all this I talk. Man way no say he don't lost speaking for this war. Make you understand. Because I'm not ready for lost another one again. This war done too much. Oga, if you want to do and so I beg help we for make sure say you go sort out this problem. if and that Amoka will go give me with that 2B, they go always there with me till the end of this war, because if they not there with me till the end of this war, I no go open so now only for one day because you send them for me. I want to get them as you to get them every day. Thank you. I beg, when I let me send this message for SDU, for Meme, for Kumbade. Thank you plenty.
Ambazonia will be developed not by those our parents call the long crayons, not those empty big book people who call themselves elites, but by the army of hard-working citizens willing to roll up their sleeves and get dirty.
The foreign and local NGOs and journalists suddenly crusading for schools' resumption are not doing so out of altruism and would be hard put to deny the charge of hypocrisy and self-interest.
Baby girl, I say with you, I'm just surprised. My love for you, girl, I know if it take you out of sight. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? I do anything. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? Everything. Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh? I do for you. I do anything for you, eh? Baby girl, I do anything for you, eh?
This is a lesson that every Ambazonian should know by heart from real politics. The world won't roll over just to please the hard to satisfy in the ranks of our people. Those who choose to be spoilers will be free to do as they please.
I recognize the fact that even those I consider to be egoistic or to be selfish, I recognize the fact that the intent is good. People simply think I have the best route to Boya, I have the shortest way, the easiest way. I recognize all that.
The search for a completely neutral country will never be successful because there is no such thing as a perfectly neutral country to serve as mediator.
We should trust in our cause that is embedded in truth and it's God ordained, and we should hope for the best while expecting challenges.
Our job is to ensure that the negotiations work for what we seek and that our leaders and negotiating team do not sign onto any deal that falls short of outright independence for our homeland. In other words, our destiny is in our hands, not in the hands of the mediator.
Where is the war in southern Cameroon? Is the war at La République? No. So who has crossed borders? La République du Cameroon. They need to ask La République du Cameroon to cease fire, because who also drew first blood? La République du Cameroon. So you can ask someone defending to stop violence.
The job of Ambazonians today is to make the Swiss-led process be the equivalent of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement, whose implementation by the United Nations culminated in the independence of South Sudan in July 2011.
Drum roll, please. And welcome to our Nyamfoka of the Week segment. We don't do foolish, but when there are capital fools out there, we make it our duty to find them, and every week we crown one of them the Nyamfoka of the Week.
Veronique Vatimfe continues to be out this week. We've got XXX with our rundown of the kings and queens of foolish for this week.
Finishing in third place this week is a fake armed group claiming to be part of the restoration forces. In an audio widely shared on social media this week, the so-called Defense Council relayed the monstrous message of Gary Master Eric Tato, promising to chop off the limbs of any teachers who dared to violate the lockdown and head to school. This pro-regime fake Defense Council on Ground Zero says they will chop off the limbs of anyone selling books in any market in Ambazonia. They promise to do the same to any parents who send their children to school. And to close the round, they promised to target the family members of those who are in the diaspora who dared to advocate for school resumption. While the pro-independence movement is against any back-to-colonial schools, they are all opposed to any chopping of limbs for brandishing threats of committing war crimes by maiming innocent civilians. The so-called Defense Council on Ground Zero is this week's third-place finisher for the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week. Finishing in the runners-up position are the very poorly talented actors who staged, filmed, and shared video of what they hoped would pass for a hostage situation reportedly unfolding at the Kona Yard in the Southern Zone. In the video shared on social media this week, the main actor pretends to be a hostage who has been badly tortured and bloodied by his so-called captors, who all happen to be his teammates in this sorry drama. The so-called victim is plastered in ketchup, including in parts of his body made to look like deep wounds from a machete. The fake hostage is told he will be freed if he confesses to killing Ambazonians, but the captors ask questions they are not interested in getting answers to, certainly because they know that the answers don't exist. The fake hostage is asked to wipe clean and show the fake wound supposedly inflicted on his arm. The so-called General Muftafo Road and his Atanganji movies are this week's second-place finisher for the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week. The winner of the crown of shame this week is a young man who turned up in a video in which he claims to be a former soldier of the Ambazonian Defense Forces, ADF. Shamefully acting on behalf of colonial Cameroon, this other actor has not even mastered his script and needs to be prompted in hushed whispers to recite the propaganda the colonialists invited him to deliver. The hope of the colonial regime in Yaoundé was that this poor actor would serve as a mouthpiece for their dead-on-arrival demobilization, disarmament, and reintegration program. He rattles out platitudes written for him by the colonial regime thanks to the help of someone prompting him in whispers, inviting restoration forces to lay down their weapons. This fellow, who is clearly under threat to say these things or face execution, says everything his captors, the colonial regime, commandeer him to say, including calling on unarmed civilians to come out against armed Amba boys and to drive them out of their communities. The colonial government official who is the producer of this video then helps him list the Amba generals the regime would like to see surrender from the northern zone, ending with the only claim the colonialists have on their lips, that Cameroon is one and indivisible, and that the dream of a free nation called Ambazonia is unachievable. For struggling so hard to invent so-called ex-combatants of the ADF, the colonial administrators from Yaoundé, based in the northern zone, are this week's winner of the crown of shame, the Nyamfuka of the week. Nyamfuka them all. This is XXX for Ambazonia Calling.
Journey of our liberty. So restoration train is our freedom train.
We've got to do it together, building trust amongst leaders and making sure we make compromises that can take the Ambazonian people to a new horizon.
Oh, Holy Spirit, lead us on the restoration journey of our liberty.
The message we are sending out to all other Ambazonian groups is that we have to work together, because it's only in working together that we would achieve what we want faster.
Oh, Holy Spirit, lead us on the restoration journey of our liberty.
If we do not do that, we are going to be having South Sudan.
So restoration train is our freedom train.
Rule of law and rule by decree. Every expert in good governance says the former is a lot better than the latter. But as the monk says in this analysis, in the Cameroons, there's just the latter, rule by decree.
Cameroon was colonized by the French and British at the same time, and in English-speaking regions separate legal systems, but French has always dominated, and the roughly 5 million Cameroonians who speak English say their language and culture has been stifled for decades.
That was Al Jazeera's Catherine Soy in Bamenda, 2016, when the crisis just began. Anyone with an appetite for the civilized treatment of citizens anywhere in the world will lose it in the context of the Cameroons. An illegal amalgam of two states, the former British Southern Cameroons, also known as Ambazonia, and the state of French Cameroon, formerly, or some say still colonized by France, are engaged in a failed experiment that is currently in genocide stage as we speak. In the Cameroons, all arguments about law and the rule of law are opened and closed by presidential decrees, meaning that rule in these parts of the world is not of law, but by decree, which equates to dictatorship. Question is, how did this come about, and how do citizens in this context relate or not to the situation? Videos and images shared around the world of the brutal treatment of citizens, extrajudicial killings, rape, burned down villages, extortion, and an ongoing genocide in a war environment decreed by the president of French Cameroon makes one wonder how the concept of rule of law is being applied or not. There is also the question of which law is being applied. There is also a muse on the idea of what is termed in this context the bijural nature of law in the Cameroons.
Professor Marcasinis, how would an ordinary person, maybe an ordinary litigant, recognize the difference between a court historical basis as a civil law or the common law?
I would have put it in this way. The oracles of the law, the people who tell us what the law is, in the continental European systems are the academics and the universities, and in the common law system are the practitioners and the judges. And that's a very important difference, because academics go for system and logic and structure and theory, and they therefore tend to be system builders, whereas our lawyers are practitioners. They look for the problems and they try to find the right remedies, so they are problem solvers.
Experimenting with European-generated legal systems on a subset of African people when Europeans themselves are still having a hard time trying to do the same thing within the EU with limited success is an exercise in futility. To make matters worse, after modeling the legal system, French Cameroon seemed to be hell-bent on doing the same thing to the education system of British Southern Cameroons.
For over 50 years, Anglophone children have not been able to have a headway in Cameroon in those disciplines that will bring about development, science and technology, because the government had refused to train teachers for our schools.
So, we are at the point where rule of law is kaput. To fix it, We need citizens with minds educated enough to understand what is really going on and to fix it once and for all. But then, the system of education that we need is being messed with, again by French-Cameroun. This is the monk for Ambazonia Calling.
Of John the Baptist, the kingdom of God suffered violence. Let the violent one takes it by force. You're underground king. Boom. You the cry, about what the cry. Don't tire, about what why.
Mama, they cry, cry, oh yeah, they cry, about what they cry, we they cry, wanna free me, Mama, they cry, oh yeah, they cry, we they cry, wanna free me, Mama, they cry, oh yeah, they cry, we they cry, wanna free me.
Sick and tired of this, like Republic wanna free. Amango today inside pay, you know the free. We president on the side say all man of yay. Grand ambition, fuck that slogan, no yay. Presido, the pay jaga jaga. Una take all till the we for scatter scatter. They need 102 students for send address. Una select 2 Anglophones, escape address. Bia, young, Dijon, prison. Escape we know why man show BBC they for prison. They don't tell all we then start for colors Anglophones. Fuck up the government, we ain't tools. Minister for communication, no fit talk good English. Southern Cameroon independence, that's my wish. No good third roads, no seaports, no light, no water, no airports. President, you overget fake promises. Wait to happen, failing news, you bring us diseases. But men are the cry, we are the ask why. You don't come for that chair, you don't go shake, you go die.
Mama, they cry, we are the cry, about what they cry, we they cry, wanna free me, Mama, they cry, oh yeah, they cry, we they cry, wanna free me.
In an independence war, there tend to be blacklegs, there tend to be patriots, and there tend to be people who sell out. Christoph Hans Messner argues here that they're the Jesuses with the AK-47 liberating the land, and the Judases holding the money back and thinking only about it. Here's Christoph Hans Messner.
Many are asking, why does it take so long for Ambazonia to win? How many more deaths will Ambazonians have to suffer until we reach BOYO? What's the price of independence? Will this Ambazonia ever be run better and less corrupt than French Cameroon? Of course, during hard times there are always doubters, hesitators, weaklings. So, what is a strong answer to them? Ambazonia is very wealthy. She is blessed by an abundance of natural resources, fertile soils, and extreme biodiversity. This alone should be enough to defend from any enemy and be completely self-sustainable and sovereign. Yet, it's the internal lack of national discipline, mutual trust, and accountability between many different tribes which makes it hard to defeat the neocolonial occupier. But the Ambazonian Defense Forces, no matter which group, realize that only collaboration, discipline, and unbribability makes strong. Staying focused on the one and same common enemy and fighting him together and sorting out piece by piece all blacklegs. This sorting out process is the key to victory and a future better, free, independent Ambazonia, Ambaland. Because when the Ambazonian leadership promises any foreign ally who wants to give military help, when they promise some part of Ambazonian wealth as a reward, then in order to keep this promise after victory, the Ambazonian leadership needs to be unbribable by the French Cameroonese, and only the military discipline during fight is able to sort out and exclude the bribable ones from leadership. You can imagine that after victory, not only the defeated enemy, But also other powers with neocolonial exploitation intentions will try to bribe our leaders to not fulfill the promises once given to our allies. So, the whole war of independence is practically a sorting out process of those who are selfish by those who serve the greater common benefit selflessly, even to their death. The latter are the Jesus plus AK-47 types, and the first are the Judas plus fat cards types. You know exactly who will bring victory already, and how. You just need to do it, and put the national benefit above your family benefit. Because when the nation is free, all families will benefit. Christoph Hans Messner for Ambazonia Calling.
This is Ambazonia Calling.
Because you have your army of occupation out in West Cameroon, you believe that when the people will rise, even if you took the whole of the French army and added to yours, you will never bring them down.
And I call on all Cameroon soldiers to lay down their arms within Ambazonia and to turn their arms against the very system that has made them slaves in the land of their birth.
For more stories from around the world, go to the World Wide Web at themissionstribune.com, compassfreepress.com, and africafreedomnetwork.com.
Here is our letter to Joshua.
Dear Joshua, I saw your coronation, King of the Bulus. Or is he King of the Betis? They did not declare independence of the Beti Republic. Is it the Federal Republic? Of Fang Beti? Or just of Beti? Of Bulu? Joshua, you are such a piece of shit. So the Beti people could convince you to become Mobutu Sese Seko. Everything complete with the leopard skin, with a throne, with a crown, and the clownish look. That was great. I mean, have they shown you the pictures? Have you seen the pictures in Kunguma? Have you seen the video? Nothing in that video says that there is a better clown on earth than you, Joshua. None. We've come to the point where the emperor's new clothes, Joshua, they are no new clothes. I guess the Bulu chiefs realized that they needed, before you go to their ancestors, that you should join them. Just look at how they were helping you. Up the seat, now be seated, now rise, now be seated. I really liked the ceremony. It looked like the old man and the medal, or was it the old man on the throne? It looked more to me like the dead walking man on the throne. Where's Ferdinand Oyono to write some beautiful lines about this? Where's Mongo Betty to write some great poetry about it? Where's Famindongo to write some great, some of that is flagonnerie, just put it down. The king no longer has anyone around him except his Betty family. The same people who have dried out the water and left the sardine and crayfish without anything, no water to survive on. I really like the part where you sat on the throne like you were going to do heavy duty. And for goodness sake, and you let the Bible be slipped under your backside. Crazy. The Bible does not belong there. I thought you went to a minor seminary. I thought you wanted to be a priest. I thought your father was a catechist and your elder brother succeeded him. What happened to your Catholicism? Is it all gone in Rosicrucianism and in Esinganism? What was the rank you were taking in Esingan during this ceremony, Joshua? Is it true that you did not rise to the top of the ranks among the Beti people until now? That the Bulu people still needed to crown you now? Do you mean that there was power in anybody else to invest in you? Oh my goodness. I thought Grand Camarade was the last person who could have had any iota of power to put over you. There's nobody left. So this was the baptism into the Bulu cult. This was the grave calling my man. How very appropriate. It is Robert Mugabe, who died this week, who said that the people of Africa never rest, because even after they go to rest in peace, they cannot rest because they now have to work as ancestors. The Bulu people are clever people. The Bulu people are telling you, Kunkuma, that if you did not form the Republic of Fangbulu, that if you do not form one before they kick you out of power, you're going to come back to a no kingdom. So as a guy called Joseph Owona had to write the constitution of a Fangbeti Republic. This was a week when a man as wicked as you to these people, when he killed them in Matabele land, when he tortured them, when he refused to quit power, when he rigged every election to stay on, when he wanted his wife to take over. This was a week when a guy who not only did that, but also fought, put his life on the line to bring independence to his people. This was a week when he bowed out of stage, when he walked out having performed his part. What will they remember you for, Joshua? Will they just remember you for being an a-hole running an s-hole country? Is that all you are capable of? I have some advice for you, Joshua. I know the talisman they gave you during that ceremony is supposed to make sure that you live forever, but I know what you need to do that. I know. Frankly, this is free advice I'm giving you. Just head out to the cemetery, spend the night there all alone. Don't take anyone with you. None of those chiefs. They're going to steal your power. Just go out there to the cemetery all alone and stay the night near the Kohler's grave. It will bring you closer to your next step in life. You will be looking right there into your future. It is so sad that for all the prayers that the people offered, God answered their prayer, but he picked Mugabe.
From our studios here in Washington, D.C., our producer is Jeff McCoy. Our music today is from Ken Wanaku, the monk from Balikumato, William Ford, an ambassador of blessed memory, Eric Matisse on the web at soundimage.org, and Prince Ajua Alemanji of Ajam Sonic Kitron, USA. Ambazonia Calling is a joint production of Africa Freedom Network, the Missions Tribune, and Compass Free Press. You can find us on the web at www.themissionstribune.com, www.compassfreepress.com, and www.africafreedomnetwork.com. Next Sunday is another day. Until then, keep the spirit, keep the faith, keep up the fight for justice and independence for Ambazonia. Stay Amba strong.